Oh no, here we go again, talking about more public transport. But I really want to get to the heart of something that, public transport is a really good, thing to have. And I think lots of people really do undervalue, or in many cases, um, as I've said before, you can win the absolute jackpot lottery and either live in or close to a town with a pretty decent either public transport system or even a really good rail network connection, and you've won the jackpot compared to everyone else potentially, especially up in the north. um Trust me, if you go and live somewhere without good public transport, you very, very quickly realize how actually having good public transport is a really good thing, and in many ways becomes an incredible issue locally. And MPs of all parties constantly get talked to about how important or how many people in their constituencies want better public transport. But to do that, it takes investing. It takes, putting money into it. And we've had a government over 14 years who has not done that. And if you really want to, and especially to sort of, Labour to be the real party of the red wall, to really show what leveling up is about, well, I've got three relatively easy things. And I say relatively easy, in these regards of how Labour could really fix UK public transport and make it a massively, massively better situation than it is. Now, of course, this would take some time for some of these projects to kick in, but like with any good or big infrastructure project, and don't get me wrong, all these things would be, well, two of them would be, one sort of isn't, but it would take some time. But in doing these things, it would make things better over the long term, and it would really show Labour's commitment to building things that are going to have take a long time. It might take a couple of years to build, but once they are built, hey, you can't, no one's going to come and just uproot the thing, basically. So, yeah, definitely something that these three things, I want to talk about, and would be a massive improvement for not only in certain cases the North, but of course, the UK as a whole. So, before we do get on to discussing these things, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page, the one off donation link where you can buy me coffee, where you can buy me coffee. There's the YouTube thank you button. And of course, there's the Pony Club down below as well. So, first and most obvious one, if you know my channel at all, build HS2. And if anything, what Labour should be doing now is really moving to protect the line as much as possible so that the groundwork is already there, so that they don't have to sort of go back to square one to completely rejig HS2, which would take it even longer to do. If you protect, of course, the current line, the current land earmarked for HS2, um, when you are in power, you can revive it. We've heard very recently talks of Labour trying to revive the northern leg of HS2. That would be very good, but it's not just about reviving the northern leg of HS2. It's about making sure that, for example, the lines from Birmingham to London are not just, well, a degraded shuttle service, that it is an actual proper service rather than just those 6 trains a day. It's 12 trains. That would make a very big improvement. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a bottleneck situation, and that just doesn't help anyone in the long term. So building HS2 completely is very, 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 very much needed to help improve the whole of the UK rail network as a whole. And of course, you shouldn't just stop at building HS2. You should look at, HS3, HS4, um, looking at, I don't know, linking Cardiff to, that London line. Maybe you link Cardiff to Birmingham by, high speed rail. Of course, HS2 just roughly stops at Manchester. Look at linking, Manchester to Edinburgh or Glasgow, depending which one's easier. there's all kinds of stuff you could do and that you should really look at doing. Um, but it would certainly, I think, signal the ideology of just cancelling very things as Rishi Sunak did and should be heavily criticised for doing, cancelling something that would give such good to the UK and be a massive public benefit, cancelled just for a very short-sighted, quick gain. Um, Definitely something and a decision that should be reversed. So we talked about this yesterday as well, but bringing back buses and making buses a public good. You know, we talk a lot and have talked about a lot about train and train train travel, but the reality is when you look at public you know um, public transport usage, it's not trains that are the predominant mode of travel; it's buses. And the biggest problem that we've seen is the lack of, well, deregulation. This is why London has such a good public bus network compared to probably everywhere else in the UK. It's not just they've got things like the underground, etc. It's the fact that their buses very sort of heavily regulated, very much focused, very much still publicly owned and in controlled by those public companies. We are seeing, of course, in Manchester, them bring their buses under public ownership, and we're seeing other places and other Labour mayors really focus on bringing buses back under public ownership. It's what people have said for a while that they wanted to see, and oh look, here's Labour doing it. So this will be, I think, a very much public good, and making sure that you do have those buses that do serve the community, making sure that you've got those buses that are going to like the most populated areas, looking at sort of those expanding those new routes. Maybe you look at smaller buses that go out to more sort of maybe like smaller rural areas. There's all sorts of things you can do and look at. um it's just the start of things, because once you take that profit motive out of there, it is a very good thing. And even if let's say you sort of franchise it and it gets run by a private company, then that private company, even then, it would still be under public ownership or rulership. They would then have to answer to, the local government or the local council, or in case that the regional mayor, if those services aren't good. So there is a lot of accountability, even if you do sort of bring in sort of a private, some sort of private a company to help run those services. Um, and again, it is all about making sure that there is that public accountability, that public overall control, even when you've got a private company in some way, shape, or form helping out. It's how London's public transport has run for a very long time, and it's been, well, proven itself to be quite successful. So the third, and of course, I think the final one, is again the real Network North. Honestly, if Rishi Sunak had cancelled HS2 and actually come out with a genuine plan to help improve the rail network in the north, or at least public transport in general in the north, he would have been greeted, I think, with a lot more praise than I think he would have expected, especially from his Red Wall MPs. The Network North is just a series, as we've called it before, a series of network suggestions of things that have either been proposed but not even in the initial planning stages, already built and ready to roll, or are just not even in the ideas phase that maybe we could do something here. We're not 100% sure. So this is something that would take a lot of planning. Things like an east to west rail route. Boris Johnson, of course, infamously came up with this, the line from Liverpool to Hull that got vastly shortened down. But it would be something very much needed. Not only just a sort of investment in rail, but trams as well would be a fantastic idea to see sort of again up and running. Having more sort of connected bus routes between all these things, having that interconnectedness of the bus, trams, and sort of rail networks would be again fantastic and very sort of good joined up thinking. That will be again something to see, but to be able to do that, you need to have an actual real plan. How are you actually really going to sort of unlock the travel potential here in the north? And as I've said before many times, I can't speak for other regions in the UK, but I know in South Yorkshire, 1 in 5 people turn down a job because they cannot actually travel to that job. So they've gone through all the process, getting the job, then offered it, turned it down because they cannot travel there regularly. Um, wouldn't be surprised if that's maybe changed a bit because of course, pandemic changes, working conditions, etc. More working from home now becoming more of an option to people. Wouldn't be surprised if that's maybe changed a bit, but it should and at least still shock people that is that is the thing. Wouldn't surprise me if there are very similar statistics for other places in and around the UK, but I know that's certainly one for South Yorkshire. So, as always, let me know what you think to these 3 ideas that I have. I know some of them aren't necessarily going to be that easy. Of course, building HS2, the answer is, well, where do you get the money? Well, okay, we got the money originally to build HS2. And I've said this before, when you look at other high-speed rail projects, all of them unanimously have all come in, taken longer to build than initially expected, and cost more than they initially were costed at as well. From things like the Shinkansen back in there, sort of high speed rail in Japan, all the way through to the very recently just sort of finished and completed high speed rail in Spain as well. So, and here's the thing: once you've built it, what is someone just going to come along and say, "Sorry, gotta just rip this up now"? Not going to be the case. And of course, when these things have been up and running, when they are operational, they always have ended up paying for themselves. I think the Spanish one pays for itself. I think in like the next 8-9 years. I think. Don't quote me on that. I'm sure someone will correct me, but I think it's something around there from at least I remember looking up. But as always, thank you very much, of course, for watching, and of course, we'll see you all next time. And of course, don't forget to leave a like and a share, and of course, remember to leave a comment down below. And of course, there are different ways to support the channel, as you can see, just scrolling across the screen down below as well. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.